We have 6 amazing flash talks for you today. I'm going to try to remember everybody's names. So our flash talks are Maura Teal from Time Inc. Fansided, Sylvia Christman, from Svetka.io, Jonathan Wold from XWP, Peter Ericson from Zeen 101, Ernesto Aguilar from the National Association of Community Broadcasters. Did I get that correct? Close enough? Okay. And then Jake Spurlock from Wired. If you were here yesterday, you know how it goes. They each have 5 minutes, and at 6 minutes, I start waving rapidly. Because we want to keep things moving tonight, there will be no questions, so they will be going very, very quickly. Does anyone have any questions? Are you guys ready for Flash Talks?
Hi, I'm Maura Teal, and I'm talking today about how WordPress grew Fansided, or contributed significantly to its growth. So, 10 years ago, Fansided started as a little blog started by 2 brothers, Zach and Adam Best, who wanted to write about their favorite sports team, the Kansas City Chiefs. They chose to write on WordPress, and I think that's lucky for me, because I have a job from it. It evolved into a rather large multi-site network today, though, 10 years later, and we're owned by Time Inc. So there were a few things that WordPress contributed to. We were Time Inc. acquired, obviously, in 2015. They went ahead and bought us. We have 360 niche subsites in a large multi-site network. We have over 1,800 contributors that actively write for us. And we also have a lean WordPress development team that's pretty much founded on the WordPress community of Phoenix. So what we are and what contributes to Fansided success as far as WordPress is concerned is that WordPress was open source. That made a big difference for us. WordPress has a great community, and WordPress also has a large market share. So in the beginning, WordPress was quick to help us with our evolution. In the beginning, they needed perhaps a new little feature built. They needed to find a solution for something to grow advertising revenue on the site. And WordPress absolutely contributed to that. A little bit later on, it made finding developers easier. It made finding contractors easier. It made us quicker to building our minimum viable products and features. Granted, that did create some problems down the line because we have a lot of code that's left over from a lot of those MVPs. But that was for us to deal with later. So the WordPress community helped build our tech team. Fansided was originally just the 2 brothers, brought on another person, and much later down the road, brought on Seth Karstens as our VP of Technology. Seth was an active WordPress meetup organizer. He also contributed to our community by working on WordCamp Phoenix, and he knew a lot of us. So I was hired on as one of the first developers that was full-time on the site, and as we grew and built on more developers, we certainly acquired the talent from our own community. We were better connected, and we knew these people were in touch with how WordPress worked, and were actively working to learn outside of just their day job. So it made a huge difference, and ultimately, it made us more attractive to acquire. So not only were we more attractive to acquire because we had an established tech team, we also were using technology that Time Inc. is very familiar with. Time.com runs on WordPress. They have Entertainment Weekly that runs on WordPress. We also had a couple of extra little things growing for us, which was we were using different hosting. We were not on the hosting that Time Inc. was utilizing. That opened up a few extra options for Time Inc., as they have very strict InfoSec rules. So we could solve a couple of different problems that they might have been stagnating at. It certainly made a huge difference. And we also had additional knowledge that made it scaling easier. So some of the problems had already been solved. We were able to utilize and leverage managed hosting to make our lives easier and keep our development team lean. That was another attractive asset that Time Inc. wanted when they acquired us. We've contributed to additional products in Time Inc. that are WordPress-based, and they're certainly dedicated to continuing to grow that. So my name's Maura Teal, and I work with Time Inc. and Fansided and WordPress multi-site. Feel free to ask me any questions at the party this evening. I'll be at Contributor Day tomorrow. And thanks for joining us.
My name is Jonathan Wold. I've been working with WordPress for about 13 years now. Today I lead sales and strategic partnerships at XWP. For me, it's been super exciting to watch WordPress grow over the years. And one of the areas of particular growth is the Customizer. So today, in the next few moments, I'm going to talk you through three different ways that you can do sort of Customizer-centric workflows. So the first topic, the first one is layout customization. There's a lot of ways that you can do layout customization in Customizer. One of the ways that we've done it is to take the concept of component-based designs and match the components with widgets. Let's take a look and see how that looks. So here we have widgets, a widget area for homepage layout. You can drag and drop and change the order. The widgets are matched with the components registered in the theme. You can see those changes live as you go. And then we've also defined a bunch of configuration values within the widgets themselves. So here you can change a font, for instance, and see that change applied. You can take any of these configuration values that were determined during the design process and see those changes applied. This opens up a lot of workflow potential. Here we're going to change the number of stories to show up in the featured stories piece there. There's so many different things that you can do within this sort of live preview context. So layout customization. The Customizer provides a foundation for you to build layout customization on. There's a lot of good models you can follow. The one I showed you is one example. Next up, we have the concept of site-wide content preview. I'm just going to jump straight into this one. So here we're looking at our content. You can do content editing directly in the Customizer. We're going to make our title longer. Let's also go ahead and change a date value. And what's important here is to see how is this going to look as throughout the rest of the site in its appropriate context. So we're going to click onto a category index. You can see the title change applied, and you can see how the date change affected its order within the template. You can see the same on the home page. And then as we click back to the story, and this is just an example interface. There's a lot of different ways you could do this. You change the title, change the date back. And you can imagine these are very simple changes, but it can model any types of changes and then show you those changes in context in the areas where it matters to you. You can see it's moved based on the chronology, and the title's changed, and the same on the home page. So the Customizer facilitates a site-wide preview of your content changes. Last but not least, one of my favorites, one of the most interesting to me, is change set scheduling. So in WordPress 4.7, we introduced the concept of change sets. Change sets make changes in the Customizer persistent, kind of like starting with autosave drafts, and they allow you to group any number of content changes to your site. Let's take a look at an example of that. So here you have, we're going to change a header image, and then let's go ahead and change the colors in the header so you can actually read it. And then let's go ahead and make a change to the menu, entirely different type of content change. We're going to remove an item. So now we have 3 changes, the image, a color. We're going to go ahead and give a title to this change set, auto-generated. We're going to schedule this change set for 2 days from now. It all works beautifully. Now if you click through into the back end, you can see that change set represented, stored as a custom post type, the JSON. which allows for revisions, all sorts of interesting things. You can see that represented here. And very importantly, this is a big piece of this. When you click preview, you have a unique ID. You can share this link with someone who's not logged in. They can see those changes applied. You can exit the change set and then see the current state. And 2 days from now, that state would be replaced. So the Customizer provides easy creation and scheduling of change sets. A great way to leverage the change sets functionality that's available now. At conclusion, use Customizer with change sets as a base for, or an integral part of your content workflows. A lot of possibilities there. If you're interested in any more on this, check out make.xwp.co, the latest post. Up right now, Weston goes into this in a bunch more detail, and all the plugins that I've used are referenced there. You can download them and experiment with yourself. That's it.
Hi, I'm Pete from Zeen 101, and I want to talk to you today about how we took a veteran print publisher with very minimal digital subscriptions, if any, into full-on digital marketing, selling online subscriptions to their magazine, and absolutely killing it. So, before we jump into the juicy stuff, just want to share where they started. So they had about 40 years of back issues that we were dealing with. And the subscriptions were tied to PDFs and those really fancy things called flipbooks. You guys ever read a flipbook? You get the noise when you click the corner and it turns, right? Anyway, I've never read a flipbook. But their apps were issue replicas, so you load their app and you can go and buy an issue and you wait to download the issue before you can read it. And then they were publishing quite a lot of free blog content. Let's call it lower value content. Is that for me? Oh, okay. Sounded like the ding. In order to get search and sharing, because PDFs don't really do such a great job for search and sharing, a lot of blog content was being published. But their issues were being locked in PDFs. So you can imagine the problem they had. And they have a fulfillment house in California called ESP that was processing their subscriptions. Okay, so what are the problems? You guys know all the answers up here. I know you do, right? PDFs and flipbooks are landlocked. Google does not index them very well, although they do, but not well at all. They don't get shared. They don't really read well on mobile. That's a problem. They're relying on lower value content for discovery. Their workflows were a disaster. You can imagine they had to do everything separately. App content, flipbook, fulfillment, blog, everything. Email, everything. And they were selling, with Woo, they were selling individual PDF issue sales. But that did not turn into really any revenue for them. Okay, so what was the solution? There are 4 parts. I'm going to race through them. 1, we have a plugin called IssueM. It's on the repo. It creates a custom post type called articles. You can create an issue and then just bang out web-based articles, attach them to the issue, publish them live, and now you have something that's discoverable and shareable and all that good stuff, right? They're working their way backwards, so there's this new technology called cut and paste, where you grab the text and the images and you move it into WordPress, and everyone asks me, hey, how do you guys do it? Oh, well, Upwork.com, that's a good spot. All right, so they're about 3 years back now, right? As far as issues, and every month they go 1 issue back. They go further. So here's how it looks. You go to the archive, kind of looks like an archive. These are the issue covers. If I click on a cover, let's talk about Sticks and Todd over there, who's having a good time. It brings up the current issue. This is the first the cover article basically, and if I could actually scroll down on this, you'd have all the rest of the articles below it, and they're just regular live web articles the way it should be. Okay. Number 2, we installed a metered paywall. That's our leaky paywall plugin. It's on the repo. Lets you give away a few free articles before you have to subscribe, kind of like New York Times does. You get 10 free articles, then you have to pay. What that does, of course, is it lets Google index all their content. And You could share one article to 1 million different readers, no problem. As soon as the individual browser starts to comb through other articles, that's when the meter starts ticking, and then they get dinged with a subscription prompt. They still serve up PDFs to their readership. They demanded their readership get PDFs. So we restrict the PDFs to subscribers, paying subscribers only. And we have something pretty cool that we did, is that there's 2 levels of subscription. One is current issue, and one is archive issue. So you can pay less, and if I subscribe today, I would get the current issue and all issues going forward. But if I paid more, I could get access to their entire archive. So that was pretty cool. Oh, and by the way, the meter's adjustable. We have publishers that are toying with going to 0, which is like a hard paywall, and during peak traffic times and seeing their subscriptions triple. It's been amazing, actually. So you can play with the meter. And here's what it looks like. I've read 3 articles. Here's my 4th article. Whoops, I got to pay. So if you notice, I'm in the article, but also in the sidebar, our plugin outputs the issue cover, the issue name, and the table of contents. So you can quickly get to the article that you want to read in that issue. All right, number 3. We have a service called Unipress, which is iOS and I'm running out of time. iOS, it's apps. It integrates the whole platform. Issues, paywall. You subscribe on the web, you get instant access to the apps. Okay, that's kind of what it looks like. And by the way, it's WordPress driven. That menu is controlled in real time in WordPress. Push notifications are controlled in WordPress, and even ads are controlled in WordPress if you're doing them manually. And number 4 is we integrated Leaky Paywall with their fulfillment house in California. It's all API connected. That's the CRM. That's where the payment information goes, and the whole system's tied together. Almost one dashboard experience, WordPress and the CRM with ESP. And the results. So we launched this paywall, the Leaky Paywall, 2 weeks, 900 subscribers. In-app subscriptions 10% plus, and daily digital subscriptions are in the double digits for them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sylvia. I'm from Setka. I'm the CEO of Setka. And I'm here today. I want to talk to you guys about branded content experiences. So something that you need to know about us is that we're a spin-off of a publishing company from Europe. And we run about 4 online publications that do roughly 7 million uniques a month. And we have about 100 employees, and that's not even counting the licensees in 5 other countries. So our claim to fame in that is that we really, we won over 65 international design awards for the branded content experiences that we created in place of native advertising. So we've worked over the years with over 900 brands and created advertising experiences for them that really stood out. How do I start the video? The space bar? Okay, so I wanted to show you guys some of them. Awesome. So as you might know, as a publisher, ad revenue really matters. So we greatly increased our ad revenue. That's nice. We greatly increased our ad revenue by creating content experiences like that fell outside the normal range. So one of the ads that you saw in there was, for example, the AccuView ad that we did that increased engagement by 10%. We had people on there for up to 10 minutes. So creating content experiences that are different will increase not only engagement and increase the shareability of it, it increases the amount of time people will spend on it, and of course click-through rates. So what really changed for us was that we decided we wanted to create branded content experiences across different channels. So let's say you're Nike, for example, you sell your products through various different retail experiences. However, when you go into a Nike store, you create a branded content experience that has a certain look and feel that's important to the brand. So we wanted to take that onto a digital platform and create experiences that the brands can really identify with, including the customers. So the other one you may have seen was the one of the KLM ad, which was walking through different places in Holland that took you through that. So people are not only looking at a sponsored ad by KLM, they're also walking and learning about Holland, or the Netherlands, the Netherlands. So that really changed a lot for us. And in order to produce, we created about 70 posts a day and still do. So in order to create premium content experiences, not only for our advertisers, but also all of our regular long-form content, we needed to create tools that allowed us to do this quickly. So the editor is really what came out of that, because we needed a tool that allowed us to design these experiences quickly, efficiently, and cost-effectively, because otherwise it's very, very expensive to design something like that. So with the editor now, you're able to design this with a team. You have collaboration tools that allow all team members to collaborate with each other and communicate with each other, which greatly cuts down on the amount of time you spend on designing something like this. You do not have to custom code a lot of the design elements. On top of that, you're able to use and reuse design elements with our snippets gallery that we created, so you can just save them, you can group them, you can save them in the snippets gallery and use them as templates and reuse them. So if you do a lot of long-form content that you want to design as a visual narrative that's compelling and will increase engagement, you can actually reuse those design elements in various different posts. So if you're doing if you're posting like we do 70 posts a day, that stuff really matters. On top of that, you have it's a Visivik, so you can look and design everything not only on desktop, but you can simultaneously see what it looks like on a tablet and on mobile all at the same time. So we're really glad that we've got to be here. So if you guys have any questions for us, my name is Sylvia. Katya is the founder and CEO of Setka, and also the co-founder of Look at Media, which is the publishing house. She lost her voice today, but if you have questions, she's a real rock star when it comes to branded content, and she's the one who won all of these awards. So feel free to reach out to me or to her. Check us out at setka.io. I think you'll really like it. And we also just did a little design guide for publishers that addresses these pain points that, if it's okay, we'll probably post on the Slack channel, so you can download it and take a look, but please feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you.
Good now. No, all good. No worries. Hey, that was a good one. Everybody feeling good? Good. Excellent. So glad to hear that. And I'm a radio nerd, so I'm pretty good at time, more or less, or at least I keep track of it. So good afternoon. My name is Ernesto Aguilar. I work with an organization called the National Federation of Community Broadcasters. We've represented non-commercial radio since 1978. Now, you're probably sitting there going, why would somebody who's been involved in media for that long with media that has been around for almost 100 years be interested in this space? Well, frankly, I'm really excited about the transformative power of this medium to go into people's homes and cars and workplaces and change their lives. And I'm not too proud to go talk to everybody about it. And also, I am really humbled to be in this space over the last couple of days. So many of you are so sincere in your efforts to do better things with technology in the world, and the work that you're doing is completely outstanding, and I'm really honored to be here. I want to thank you for that. The organization that I work with is something that is trying to help influence the direction of the country through media and help create different conversations. I don't think I need to tell you that the country's having some issues right now, whether it's social media, whether it is, now I have to laugh at that because every time I see the dogs, I love it. Because I think this pretty much says the country, frankly. And whether it's in person, whether it's social media, we are having a lot of challenges. People who perceive things in different ways, obviously there's a big partisan issue, but certainly there's a perception gap too. Sometimes people we agree with or don't agree with see things in a completely different way. We don't have relationships, we don't have trust, and we don't have a means of trying to find common ground. I know many of you are developers, many of you are publishers, many of you are developers who work for publishers and are doing a lot of really great things to help further different textures of conversations in the country to help people understand issues that matter. The real challenge with that right now is, frankly, the fact that there are echo chambers out there. People can easily get siloed into what they want to see or what they want to hear. So, unfortunately, our efforts are for naught sometimes. However, I want to present to you a tool that I hope helps illuminate that and help hopefully make that a little bit easier. Community radio. Now, half of you are out there saying, what's community radio? The other half of you are saying, who the fuck still listens to radio? I'll answer the first one because that's the easy one. Federal Communications Commission recognizes for TV and radio two different kinds of broadcasting, non-commercial and commercial. Community radio is non-commercial, non-profit, educational broadcasting that is done in big cities and small towns by volunteers, people who are passionate about their communities and go out there to talk to people about arts, culture, music, and so much more. It's more authentic because unlike a lot of commercial and public radio that you may have out there, you will report on a conversation differently, and you'll present that conversation a hell of a lot differently if the person you talk to is somebody you're going to have to stand in the grocery line with in the morning. It's a different kind of conversation and a different kind of trust that community radio is able to draw out in communities. If you're one of these folks who say you don't listen to radio, chances are it's so ubiquitous you don't even notice it. Radio in the United States has 99% penetration in the nation. That's bigger than the internet, bigger than TV, bigger than the newspapers, magazines, and every other medium that you can think of. The emergency alert system's backbone is radio because it is so widespread. It is widespread enough so you can certainly see from this both electoral and radio map how distributed radio is in these communities that vote in all kinds of ways and are at ground central of conversations that sometimes we all aren't privy to necessarily. However, I can tell you right now, a lot of these radio stations are much like our gender neutral material here, who are kind of really struggling with how to tell these stories and how to get around presenting the conversations that those communities are having. That's where you find people come in. These organizations are looking for people like you. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, a week, a month, a year, whatever you can give is a game changer for these organizations. You can help provide them a space and an opportunity to do some really unique things because many of them live in places where sometimes electricity isn't as reliable. They don't have the resources, they don't have the people, they don't have the technology, and they don't even have the know-how. You all, however, speaking from experience, just listening to you all, know a hell of a lot more than me and a lot of the other folks here that are doing radio. So you're going to hopefully make a big difference for those individuals. I am now at 40 seconds left exactly, yes. So I am going to tell you, I want to answer a bunch of questions. We don't even have time for them. So I have reading material for you for your trip home. There's a link right there. You can go and take a look at a few different ways that you can support community radio. My contact information is on there. Hopefully, if you've got a question, you can reach out. I've been pinging shit on Twitter the entire time. You can find me there. Whatever you do, however, please reach out to your communities and please do all you can. You're remarkable folks, and I believe that you can help transform this democracy. Thank you.
That was awesome. All right, I spoke earlier today, and I paid Steph a lot of money so I could speak again. So it is advancing by itself. So this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that I take very seriously. So there might be some jokes, but this is very serious stuff, and I'm going to try to present what could easily be a 4-hour session in about 5 minutes. My name is Jake Spurlock, and this is a bias guide to managing bias. This is based largely on a course that is taught at Facebook called Managing Bias, and it's by their Facebook Learning and Development Group. So I'm not claiming any of this is like my work or anything, but this is largely influenced by them. There are 2 types of bias in the world. Well, there's a lot of types of bias. There's 2 that I'm going to talk about here. There's explicit bias, which is when you are reflecting bias or attitudes or beliefs that you endorse at a conscious level. And then there's implicit bias, which happens on the subconscious. A study was done at Facebook, and they said, given 50 men and 50 women, if we were to create a simulation and take all of these men and women and place them through 8 levels of promotion at a company, per se, if the men had a 1% advantage over women, how would they stack up? And the answer to that is, at the top level, with just 1% change in bias, there would only be 35 women at the top and 65 men. So, this is just a lot of mind dump stuff here, okay? Let's talk about implicit association test. There's gender science, race, disability. 76% of people have an implicit bias about disability. You're more likely to prefer somebody without a physical disability. 70% of people more readily associate male with science and female with the arts. More readily associate males with career and females with family. 75% of people have an implicit preference for white people over black people. Once again, I'm just saying this is stats, these are numbers, these are all of us, okay? So there's 4 types of bias that studies are done. Performance attribution, competence likability, and maternal bias. So as an example of a gender bias, US orchestras, they've implemented a blind screening for auditions. And they found that they could increase female participants at a rate of over 50% just by having a blind audition, because such weight was being held, given to men in that priority. Study of identical resumes, one with a man's name and one with a woman's name, found that 79% of applicants with a man's name were, versus only 49% of those with a woman's name were worthy of hire. And mothers overestimate their son's crawling compared to their daughters. So like women to their own children will say, my son is doing better than my daughter is. It's often overestimated. Resumes with white-sounding names receive 50% more calls for interviews than identical resumes with black-sounding names. A white name is equivalent to about 8 more years of experience. And there's another fascinating study about Joe versus Jose. If you have Joe or your name is Jose, it's very similar here. Once again, there's a lot of stuff to read and look at. So there's a lot of impact that comes from this. Men, women, not given the same opportunities. Held to stricter or higher standard than white male people. And men are more likely to be hired and promoted based on what they've proven and achieved. That's women. And whereas white men hired and promoted more based on potential. So we need to implement objective standards in hiring and promotions and stuff like that, set the standards in advance, use gender and race-blind evaluations in hiring, and explain decisions on hiring, evaluations, and peer reviews. Performance attribution. Research shows that when men and women work together on tasks, women are given less credit for successful outcomes, viewed as having made smaller contributions to it, and blamed more for failure. There's this one down here at Facebook. There's a perception by some that underrepresented groups got jobs because of our commitment to diversity and affirmative action laws, not because of their qualifications. So the impact here, we need to be able to share credit. We need to be able to share responsibility. This next one here, more likely to feel fraud, experience imposter syndrome. I know that every time I come to a conference like this, you sit and feel that imposter syndrome really kicks in because you're like, There's so many great people doing all these amazing things, and I could never do something like that, but people are the same. We need to try to find ways to foster that. So, to counteract, we need to set ground rules. No interruptions, everyone speaks. Interrupt the interrupters is a rule that I like to enforce. Oftentimes, men like to mansplain, and oftentimes we need to interrupt and say, like, I'd like to hear at the end what Sarah had to say. Anyone can do this. It's power move, even for a junior contributor. And attribute carefully, noting contributions and attributing success. Acknowledge ideas and celebrate. Competence versus likability on gender. I'm going to skip this one because we're short on time. Maternal bias. This is my absolute favorite in the horrifying department. Identical resumes with one difference. Membership in the PTA, which my wife is a member of the PTA. She's the secretary. 79% less likely to be hired. Half as likely to be promoted. Offered an average of $11,000 less on salary. Just by saying that, what's that? It's insane, yeah. So it's this strong implicit bias that mothers cannot be good workers. Because, oh, well, I just don't want you to be away from your kids. I don't want you having to, I know you need to get home. I know stuff like that. It's this implicit bias that we often have. And so we need to find ways to counteract that. We can't make assumptions about people. We can't make assumptions in hiring. We need to ensure that we can hire the right people for the right job. One thing that I heard the other day that it's one of like my triggery things. Somebody said, we'd like to have a cultural fit. Like we want to do a cultural fit before we hire somebody. That's a great way to like foster bias in hiring. You may have somebody come in for a culture fit interview and like, well, this person's a woman, and I don't know if we want to hire them. This person's a person of color, and I'm not sure we want to have a person of color on our team because they're not like maybe into the same stuff that we're into. So we need to counteract that. By having a diverse and inclusive workforce, way better numbers for intent to stay, more collaboration, and diverse leaders, more likely to see ideas developed or prototyped, innovations implemented, captured new market in the past year, more likely to have improved market in the past year. So it's good for everybody. Once again, kind of a serious topic, and thank you for letting me talk about it. So, and thank you to Steph for everything that she has done, and all of the other organizers.
Can we get all the flash talkers back up? All the flash talkers? Can we please give all of our flash talkers a huge round of applause for speaking? So as you guys know, the flash talks, the way that we did them was that when you bought a ticket, you had the opportunity to pitch an idea. And we asked you, are you interested in demoing something for 5 minutes? And we had amazing flash talks yesterday, and we had incredible flash talks today as well, so thank you so much. And the whole thinking behind it is that we really wanted to have the attendees of the conference, right, who didn't pitch a full speaker submission, but just wanted to show something that they were working on, something that they were interested in with everybody else, because you guys are an important part of our community. Everyone here is working on really cool stuff, and we wanted to just give you guys an opportunity to share. So thank you. Please find these guys at the after party and go talk to them about their amazing flash talks. So thank you.